Hi everybody. So I thought it would be a good idea to go back to how to start to make a journal. I haven't been doing junk journals for all that long, maybe a year and a half, a little over a year, something like that. And I remember what it was like, just hungry for information about different ways that people were doing it and where to get the supplies and the best way to do it and all the kinds of journals you can do. So I thought it might be fun to start with the basics of how I start my journal. This is not the only way to do it. There are people who do it differently, and they work too. So what I do is I pick my cover. So right now, I don't really have in mind what this journal is all about. I don't have anybody that's ordered a journal. I'm just going to do it the way I do it, and sometimes through that process, I think, oh, this journal should go to so-and-so, or this would be a great match for whatever. But this one's just neutral right now. So this is going to be my cover. And I can decide to leave this open, which I've done. But I think what I'll do for purposes of simplicity is I think I will go ahead and glue this shut. And that will make this journal even easier. So we'll close that up. This is called Oohoo glue. When I first started making journals, this is what everybody seemed to be using. I got on Amazon and I ordered it, and it came in a box of 6 or 8 or something. It was a big box, and I loved it. Covers a lot of ground, and it was a great glue. I'm not impressed with it now. I do still use it because I still have some, but I think I'm going to switch to something else and see how that works. Okay, so here's my cover. So how big do I want this journal? I can keep it just like this if I want. This is, I think it's 9, isn't it? Nope, it is 9 3/4. And if I were to fold it in half, it would be, that side up, down, 6, almost 6 and, let's see, so about almost 6 1/2. Do I want that big of a journal? That's a pretty tall journal. Yeah, I don't think I want it that tall. So what if I did 8? 8 is a really good height, I think, for a journal. It fits well in the hand. The last garden journal I just got done and sent off, that's what it was, and I like that size. So we'll measure at 8. If you get to know me, you'll know I do not measure. I don't measure often, and I don't measure very well. Whoops, what am I doing? See? So I'm not going to use my scissors. I'm going to use my cutter, which is behind me, so bear with me for just a second while I cut this off at 8. Maybe. This is a used envelope. I have a business and I just save them. Okay, that's good enough. It doesn't have to be exact. You're going to have some kind of a covering over this, and if it's 1/4 of an inch off or something, you can make up the difference. Now, do we want it to just fold over? You know, like, do we want this to just fold over, or do we want to have like a spine? Because you can have a spine even though it's a manila envelope. Let's see what it feels like if we do it at 8. That still seems, to me, this seems a little wide. Let's see how it feels. Let's check this measurement. Okay, so this measurement is almost 6.5. But by the time you get pages in there, you're going to want it, let's see, it's not actually 6.5. It's just a couple lines below that. If we put it at 6, if we put our pages at 6, they'll have room to spread out a little bit when we fold them all. We could even do 5.5. Let's get a regular piece of paper. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So this is regular printer paper. So it's 8.5 by 11. Okay, so we're going to have to cut it down. So that might be a problem. And then we still have quite a bit left. So I say we cut it down. It is going to matter a little bit because it means our paper size will need to be different. But see, that's just too much of a discrepancy there, I think. So I'm going to say right there. So that's where I'm going to cut it. So pardon me a minute while I cut this off. I'm just not good enough with my scissors to trust myself. My cutter might not go through this. Just barely and not really. See at the end where it gave up the ghost? Okay, so let's look at this now. Oh, that's just about right. As you put paper in, it's going to come out a little bit. So I think that's just right. Now, we know we're at least 1/4 of an inch, almost 1/2 an inch too tall. Yeah, just under 1/4 of an inch. So we'll call it 1/4 of an inch. Maybe half. Let's see, this is 8.5, right? It's supposed to be. But it's not. See, it's not. It should be here. Do I have it on the right? Yeah, I do. See, it should be right there, and it's not. So 8 1/4 won't be good enough. So let's call it 8. Let's cut our pages at 8. I wonder what this is. Maybe we can test this to see. Yep, it's 8. Yeah, that's just exactly tall enough. It doesn't leave much. It's exactly tall enough. I don't know, that's not ideal, because if 1 page or 2 pages, it might be nice though to have it snug like that. I'm going to do it. I've never had it that snug before, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. Okay, so we've picked out our cover, and we've trimmed it up like we want, and I think we should glue it together, okay? I'm not going to use the Uhu glue because I don't trust it, so this was a glue called Art Glitter Glue. It isn't glittery. I don't know why they call it I assume they call it Art Glitter Glue because it's a glue designed for art and good for glitter. I assume that's why they call it Art Glitter Glue. But it doesn't have glitter in it. So you don't have to worry about that. But I had a coupon. I went to Michael's several months ago. They were having a huge sale, and I got a gallon of Elmer's School Glue for $5. So when this ran out, I put Elmer's School Glue in there with a little tiny bit of water, not much, a little bit, because it was kind of thick. I think it had been on the shelf a while. It works fine. And it was cheap, and I like that. Okay, so here's our cover. Okay, now let's pick out what's going to go inside. What kind of a theme. So I have kind of picked some stuff out because I thought that would be pretty boring. These are extras that I had from things I had printed off, digis that artists were selling online, on Etsy, things I made, and like I made this. This was free on one of the Facebook groups. This was free as well. This was free. I made this. This was an extra. This was free. This was from Andrea at Artie Mays, and she has a Facebook group. This was with that, and it was free as well. And this these were too. So was that. This was left over from something I bought. This was free. So was that. I don't remember that one. I think that was part of a kit. I can't remember. Okay, so I don't need all of these colored pages because I want to put blank pages in. And I have some of my coffee dyed paper. Now, you can make your own coffee dyed paper. You can not coffee dye it. You can buy coffee dyed paper. And you can make paper look like it's coffee dyed. And all you do is pour hot coffee in a pan, dunk your paper in it, and leave it out on the counter to dry. That's it. I mean, there's all kinds of videos about how to do it, but basically all you want to do is figure out a way to get coffee on the paper and then let it dry. And what I did with these was I put a big heavy cutting block, a butcher block on top of these, and they have lines in them because I dried them on cookie sheets. So when they were dry, but not dry overnight, I did bake these in the oven because I like the way it sounds. I like the way it makes it sound crisp. I just bake them until they're sort of dry, and then on a little cookie sheet, because I like those lines. And then overnight I put a big heavy something on them, and I had a big wooden butcher block, so I did that. So I'm not sure what that one is. That's something I got in the wrong pile. Okay. So let's say we're going to have a journal that has 50 pages. Oh, that's a lot. Let's say 25. So you'll need, if you're counting pages, you'll need 12 pages. A mixture of these and these. And then you'll have 24, because you're going to fold them in half. But then you also have to consider that you're going to have each side of each page. So 24 is a lot, but you have to double that. So you're at about 50. So let's see what that looks like. That would be what, about 12. Let's look. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's just coffee dye. Now let's get some colored paper. So here's 1, 2. I really like these, so I want to use these. 3. Maybe we won't need that. Yeah, this is pretty. Let's use that. 4. I'd like to have more flowers. Let's do this one. Let's see if I get better that way. 5, 6. So that's 12 pieces of paper. You fold that in half. See how the page is going to spread? So this would be your book. Not quite big enough, I don't think. Let's add some more. There's 1, 2 more of those. 1, 2, 2 more of these. That's 4. I love these, so let's put these in here. Oops. These. Here's a pink one. Let's put that in. This is beautiful, and it goes with that. Oh, let's have some butterflies. Okay. Now let's count this. This is starting to feel kind of hefty. Let's count. Let's see what we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. That's an even number. And I also like to add an envelope. Let me grab one or two. think maybe one will be enough. I have an old ledger book. I'm grabbing it so we can look in that to see what we have. I paid $1 for that at an estate sale this past winter. So let's see. Let's put a page in here. Ooh, it's not going to tear. Okay. Fine then. Okay. So let's see what this looks like when we kind of get it balanced. There's too many of these together. So let's separate. I like this at the beginning. Okay. Maybe this next. And then that. And then let's put this in a minute. Put that in a minute. Let's start with some coffee dyed paper. Now one of those. And how about 2 coffees? And then one of those. And how about one of these? Coffee. One of these. How about our envelope? Coffee. One of these. Coffee. One of these. Maybe let's put this last one in. Coffee, one of these, coffee, and one of these. That looks good. That looks like a even amount. Now the tough part, because our journal is an odd height, everything's going to need to be cut down. So this will go actually that way. So we're going to have to cut them all down because they're actually going to go like this, right? And we need to decide what the cover is, because if we put the cover inside the journal, we might not be happy once we get started and go, uh-oh. I really like these for the cover. Maybe one for the front and one for the back. Let's see. Where's our cover? Let's look and see. So it's not going to cover the whole page. So what we'll do is we'll do front and back, and then we'll probably put a strip of some kind of contrasting over the binder. Oh yeah, over the binding. So I like the idea of this being on the front. I think. And I like this being on the back. Looks like a butterfly threw up, doesn't it? So if this is on the front, yeah, I like that. So what about something like this on the back? It's too gold. It doesn't have enough pink in it. So I think we're going to need to steal something out of our actual book. This is beautiful. That looks perfect to me. The other way we could do it, and I think I've done it this way before, is put one of these on as our cover, and then put something else on the ends, like this on each end, you know. I don't think I want to do that. I think I want to do this on the front, that on the back, and then we need to pick an inside. And that might be a good spot for this. I like this because it's neutral and we could add whatever we want. We can put pockets in with this. We can put, it would be busy, but we could do it. So I think I'll do that. So that'll be the inside. Yeah. Okay. So we've picked out our pages for the most part. Now we're too short, but that's okay. We can make that up later. But we kind of know what direction we're going, right? So now we need to put our paper down. And what I think I'd like to do it really goes the opposite way of what I want. I wish it covered the end. So I'm going to go ahead and ink around these edges. I want to see if I want to cover them, because that page is going to go around the front. It's going to wrap around the front, but it's not going to wrap around the top and the bottom of the front. So you don't have to do this part. You don't have to ink it. If you don't have the inking or whatever, you don't have to. You could just get a piece of white paper and cover it. I may do that. But even if I put white paper on it, I think I would still cover it. So let me see. Yeah, I'm going to. I've got a ton of this leftover stuff. from a project I was doing the other day, and they're just long strips. And I'm just going to take a minute and cover the edges. Because even inked, I don't like the way it looks. It still looks orange. And I want it to be able to finish off that edge fresh. And because what we're doing with this, it doesn't have to be straight, it doesn't have to be fancy. You're just covering the edge, that's all you're doing. Oops. It would be preferred if it wasn't wrinkled though, because that'll pay off for you later. You don't have to be an expert at this. You don't have to. It's not hard. It's not hard if you do it your way. If you try to follow somebody, then it gets a little difficult because you're kind of trying to get into their mind, right? And think like they're thinking, and that makes it tough. But if you just do your own thing, it's not hard. I'm doing this over the edge because it's going to be easier for me to get it straight. That's so crooked. Nobody's going to ever know. I'm just going to do all four sides. You do have a minute to move this Elmer's glue before it's stuck down. These are just scraps. They're just scraps that I cut off of a project when I needed a different size paper. And actually they were scraps to start with. I don't remember what I was using them for. So that's our top and bottom. You see, you can't even tell how crooked it was a minute ago. Okay, now we're going to do the edges here. Oh, it's perfect. Sorta. Oops. Slid out. I didn't put enough glue on it. I knew I was singing onto these scraps for a reason. Okay. All right. So I don't like that little, see that little white edge right there? That tiny little white edge, I don't like that. So I'm going to put it close to the spine so because it's going to be covered up. And I'm going to pencil this where I want it to stop. Kind of match it with the top. Match the top with the bottom. And you could draw a line. I'm going to use my cutter. You could definitely cut it with scissors. I'm just going to save some time. I want to cover that up. It might not seem like much, but it's going to bother me. It's going to bother me. And actually, before I get this on, if you wanted to have a closure for your journal that tucked under your top and back, now would be the time to do that. So if you wanted your top like this, but say this was your closure, you would want to put that in now. Make sense? I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Okay? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just dress this because I don't like that edge. And I think what we'll do for this video is just get this cover a good start and then call it good. And then whatever we don't get finished, we'll finish on the second part of this series, and then we'll move from there. This is why I went ahead and covered those in white, just because I wanted a contrast. So I think by inking this, I may ink this too, but it's a different color, so it'll look different. Yeah, see? It kind of frames it. You could have done this in washi tape or crayon or nothing or whatever. Okay. Now, I think I will use the Uhu glue a little. I'm going to go ahead and go over it with regular glue, though, because I just don't trust this stuff. But it'll help it pop down. And I know a lot of people who, they just love Woohoo glue and they haven't had any problems. And it works first time and it stays and everything. But that's the way it was when I first started using it, but not anymore. At least not for me. One thing you'll notice with wet glue like this is when you lay something down flat, it will bubble, especially if it has more moisture. Like if you add water, if you add more water to it. I'm not really concerned about this edge, but I do want this edge right. And I'd really like to have the bottom straighter. I want to get the air bubbles out. I might go ahead and just leave that extra there because it'll give some substance to the spine, even though we're going to cover it up. There's one more layer of paper to the spine, so I'm just going to use it. We're going to cut a piece of paper to cover over that anyway. Might as well use what we have too. It's so easy to get your front one way and your back the other, so be careful. It's really easy to do that. Okay, so if we want this here, I think that will work fine. Then that's upside down. So there's our metal right there. Okay. I'm just going to cut this on the cutter. I could cut it with scissors. I'm more apt to get a straight line if I use my cutter. That's still no guarantee, but see, I used my cutter and it's good thing I wasn't, yep, I got it too short, but it'll work fine. But I do want to cover that, so let me cover that. That edge, I didn't get them long enough and cross them. Once everything's on here, all of this will blend together. And if it doesn't, you can make it blend. If you don't like the way it looks, you can fix it. I don't like that. think it's going to be coverable. See, now the journal's starting to get a little bit of a personality. Okay. Make sure I'm right side out, and I want to cover up this line out here. And again, I'm not worried about the middle because I'm going to cover that all up. And we still have a bump over there, but it's going to have to do. Okay, my words are right. My words are right. That's easy to mess up. It's really easy to mess up. But the neat thing is, if you did, you could cut another piece of paper and just put it over there. You could start over. You could take it off. There's a lot of things you could do. You could put a pocket over it or a big butterfly, or there's a lot of ways you could cover it up. Okay. Let's see. Trying to see where our middle actually is. That's important because when I put this piece of paper over the back, I want to be able to train it to bend. So now, what do we want to put? No, we don't want that. No, no, no. How about this? What do you think? What do you think? How about this? This actually looks like spine stuff. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, I'm just going to cut it, I don't know, maybe 3 inches. I didn't check it to see if it was totally straight, if the square was a square. Yeah, that's going to look fine, isn't it? Okay, let's freshen up the edges a little bit, and I think that's getting a little dry. Got some water here. I'm just extending the life of my inks. Even though they do last, I think I paid $6 for that. And it's the first one I ever bought. And it's the color that I use the most. I usually leave it out all the time. Okay. So let's put it like this. Let's match this bottom and see if that's going to match the top. It will. It'll be fine. Do we want anything reinforce this spine? You know, that might not be a bad idea, because I have had my spine split my paper before, and that is not very much fun. You could put Tyvek on this. I'm going to run it short on each end. Tyvek is that stuff that you get FedEx packages in. You can buy it at the craft stores. You can order it online. I've also used the plastic that I get from Amazon, and it works great. It's not really it doesn't feel like plastic. It's not vinyl, but I don't know what it is, but it feels a little stretchy and so our spine is actually right there. Right here. Let's make sure I'm going to cover that up. It's kind of tricky getting the spine so that it doesn't buckle on you. I'll show you my way of doing it, but then I think, you know, everybody kind of has their own little tricks. So let's train that piece. Okay. Make sure we're going to cover everything. Yep. I'm deliberately not measuring because I want to show you how easy this is. I was watching a video last week, and the gal was talking about putting on, I don't remember what it was now. I think it was a pocket. And I wasn't really watching the video intently. I was doing something else but listening to it. And she said, oh, let's measure. And then she said, well, it's over 1/4 of an inch, but not quite or under 1/4 of an inch, but not an 1/8. And the first thing I thought was, girl, if it's got to be that precise, it's not a project for me. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to show you my way of doing this. Now see, this wants to lift, watch. Watch. Because it hasn't been trained to bend. We need to bend it. Let's bend it. Because I'm trying to hurry, I'm not letting the glue dry. But you get excited, but I do need it to bend because that's how I'm going to put this other piece on, is basically 1/2 at a time. I could have taken a bone folder to that, I just chose not to. Okay, so this is our short side. This is the top. I know this will cover this, so I'm going to Make sure it's straight with that side. That's not going to work. It's got to be about half. Right? Okay, now let's roll it over. And train it to bend out before it gets set. Let's make sure we've covered everything. Okay. It's straight right here. It covers the top. It covers our little band that we put into there, and it bends with the fold. Now, I can feel my workspace is getting all yuckied up. And now that we've got our cover on there, I don't want that to happen. Because even if you have a clean surface, if you get glue on it, somehow it turns it dirty. I don't know how that happens. So we'll just take a little wipe and clean it off. So we have a clean, fresh start. I like that. I might go ahead and distress the edges. We'll see. We might want to put some other stuff. I don't like this little bump right there, so that'll have to be gone. Definitely not perfect. I can see some things that would probably bother me a little bit, but we're going to keep going because I want to show you that you can do it. You can do it. Okay, so we decided that we're going to put this. These are actually the same thing, but different. Aren't they? Yeah, but they're mirror opposites, I think. So we're going to put one down here. And just like the back, I'm going to have it overlap because I'm going to use that as part of our support for the spine. Okay. I can't get a straight line. That isn't even folded straight, so this is not going to be straight, but this is the inside. It isn't going to matter one little bit. Whoops. That would have mattered. Put the crooked side on the outside. That would matter. There's a little spot right there, so let's cover that up. See, my hand has got glue on it and it's going to make it dirty. Okay. Okay, I'm going to going to distress the edge because I don't want white on white. I'm not paying attention to the middle. I'm only paying attention to the side. It's not perfect, and that's fine. I don't care. You can make it perfect. If you guys want to measure, do it. Absolutely do it. Okay, let's get this bad boy down. Okay, that's the edge I cut. Let's put that in the middle. Okay, this is too much. So we're going to cut some of it off. See, all of that's going to be covered. So it's really not. Let's make sure our spine is moving. Push all the bubbles out. Why don't we put a centerpiece down there like we did on the outside? Where did our scrap go? Oh, it's over here. I've got to cut it. Just take me a second. I don't need it very big. Let's do it 3 inches like we did the outside. And let's get rid of the white. Stuff's going to happen along the way. You're going to forget something. You're going to run out of a different paper. You're going to put something on upside down. It's just going to happen. You just have to chuckle and move move on and go, okay, well now what am I going to do with that? That's actually the part of the brain, when you start thinking that way, that's the part of the brain that makes this soothing. It really doesn't have to be frustration. It can be, if you accept it as part of the process and not a pass-fail situation, then it continues to be a therapeutic activity. But if you set yourself up with a bunch of rigid rules, you're kind of screwed from the onset, because you aren't going to get everything right. It's not going to measure perfect. Ever. I like those together. That's pretty. I like those gold tones. Okay, let's make sure it can bend. It's got to have room to bend. There's your cover. There it is. I like it. What do you think? Uh-oh. Look what I did. We will address this. Well, maybe I can take it off. But I already kind of have, no, it's not going to work. I already kind of have plans for a pocket or something, so. Oh, we might be able to get it off. Let's see. So we'll address that issue as we go along. This is no big deal. We can fix it. What do you think? Didn't take any time at all. I didn't have to really measure. I mean, not really. Now, I'm going to stop this video here. And then next time, we'll pick out all of our papers that we want for sure and commit to that. And we'll go over ephemera and what that is and how we're going to cover this up. I already know. I already thunk it up. Well, I hope that was fun for you guys. I hope you can see that it doesn't have to be stressful. It can just be fun. Just make it fun. That's what it's supposed to be, right? Okay. Well, I hope that was fun. And I will see you guys at part 2. All right? Bye.